I was pregnant and felt bloated, so I was resting alone while my relatives gathered.
Hey, you. Why are you resting? The glass is empty.
The next moment, something happened. A cold liquid was suddenly poured on my face. Immediately, the smell of beer hit my nose. My husband, Kent, had poured beer on me.
Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you can slack off, huh? Keep an eye on things and move.
In that moment, I heard something snap in my head. So that's how it's going to be. Well, I'm not going to stay quiet anymore. I smiled sweetly. Okay, I'll tell Lauren too. She's your wife too, right?
What?
Blowing my brother's voice, Kent also said, What? I walked over to my sister in law, Lauren, and said, Lauren, he says wives shouldn't rest and should keep an eye on things. Let's work together. After that, my furious brother turned the place into a scene of chaos. My name is Sarah Olson. I'm a 30-year-old working housewife. I was born as the second child of the Johnson family. My family consists of my parents and my brother, Mike, who is 3 years older than me. From a young age, my parents didn't get along very well. The reason was my dad's womanizing. Apparently, my dad frequented nightclubs and repeatedly cheated and squandered money. And it wasn't just once or twice that I saw my parents arguing. Eventually, when I was in elementary school, my parents got divorced. My brother and I were taken in by our mom. We had to move and change schools. In my anxiety, my big brother, Mike, told me,
Sarah, from now on, I'll be your dad figure. I'll definitely protect you. You can rely on me for anything.
Thank you, Mike. At that time, Mike was still in upper elementary school. He must have been anxious too, but he still said those words to me, and I respect him for that even now. After that, the three of us, my mom, Mike, and I lived together. We both used scholarship programs to go to college, and Mike joined a major construction company. I also started working for the cosmetics company that I wanted. However, soon after I started working, our mom fell ill. By the time she was hospitalized, it was too late, and a few months later, she passed away. At her funeral, as I was crying, Mike said to me,
From now on, it's just the two of us supporting each other. Sarah, you have me. It's going to be okay.
I carried those words like a talisman through my 20s. Mike and I lived separately, but we would meet up for meals and to catch up. He was always the reliable and proud brother I could count on. In my late 20s, I attended a mixer with friends and had a fateful encounter.
Nice to meet you. I'm Kent Olson. You mentioned in your introduction that you like watching movies, right? Me too.
One of the male participants, Kent, spoke to me. After that, we hit it off over our shared interest in movies and exchanged contact information. Kent pursued me eagerly after that. I didn't mind, and eventually we started dating. He worked at a company that his parents owned, dealing in construction materials.
I'm planning to take over my parents' company while I'm still young. You might be lucky to date someone as promising as me.
I remember Kent joking like that when we were dating. Anyway, Kent and I dated for nearly 2 years without any major issues. I liked his manly and cheerful personality, and I started thinking about a future with him. On my birthday during the second year of our relationship, Kent made a reservation at a fancier restaurant than usual, and near the end of the meal, he presented me with a ring and said,
Sarah, will you marry me? Let's be happy together.
I happily accepted the ring and said tearfully, Thank you, Kent. I'm so happy. I gazed at the ring in delight. At that moment, I was on top of the world. After that, we decided to visit each other's families to announce our engagement. Kent's parents had divorced long ago, and I heard only his dad, Ken, who was the president of the company, lived at his family home. When I first met Ken, he was a stout man with a commanding presence. When Ken introduced me and told Ken we were getting married, Ken said,
Well, you want to get married? Okay, I accept your marriage.
I felt relieved and let out a sigh of relief. Then Ken continued,
Sarah, right? After you get married, quit your job and join our company. I'll put you to work as an office clerk.
What? I was shocked by Ken's words. I had planned to continue working at the cosmetics company where I felt fulfilled. Excuse me, Ken. I find my current job very rewarding. I plan to continue working there after getting married. Then Ken frowned.
Hey, my dad is offering you a position.
But you know how much I love my job. Listening to our conversation, Ken said,
All right, fine. I understand you don't want to work at our company. Do as you please.
Ken then seemed a bit displeased, and I felt awkward. A week later, it was time to introduce Kent to Mike. Mike also supported our marriage, which made me happy, but Kent said something unexpected.
So, Mike, I hear you work at that big construction company. Which college did you attend?
I went to Georgia Institute of Technology.
Kent was proud of having graduated from a fairly well-known private university. However, the state university Mike attended had higher prestige and academic ranking than Kent's university. Kent's face twisted.
Oh, Georgia Institute of Technology? You went to the state university because you were financially struggling, right?
What?
Well, you were raised by a single mom, right? Must have been tough. As for me, my parents paid for everything, so I went to a private university.
I was stunned by Kent's words.
Well, it wouldn't be true if I said we didn't struggle.
Hearing this, Kent looked a bit pleased. At the end of our first meeting, Mike said to Kent,
Kent, Sarah is my precious sister and my only family. Please make her happy.
I remember Kent replying, "Leave it to me." After that, Kent and I got married. We had a typical wedding, inviting Kent's relatives and my friends, and started living in an apartment near his family home. I thought my sweet life with Kent was about to begin. But soon I hit a wall. Kent didn't do any housework at all. Not only did he not help with cleaning, laundry, or cooking, but he also didn't clear his dishes, left his clothes lying around, and didn't throw away his trash. I found out that Kent, who had lived with his dad, Ken, until now, had always had a housekeeper doing everything for him. Ken, this isn't your parents' house. I work too, and I need you to help with the housework a little. I told him seriously, but it didn't seem to reach him.
What? We're married now, and housework is a wife's job.
That's such an outdated way of thinking. Anyway, you need to learn to do some housework.
No way. I'm busy working every day as the future president. I'm not going to work at home, too.
When we were dating, he was kind and considerate. Maybe it's true what they say about not feeding the fish after catching it. Even after that, Kent didn't do any housework, and my burden only increased. About a year after we got married, I received a message from Mike saying he wanted to introduce me to his fiancée. I was surprised because I didn't even know he was seeing someone. Anyway, it was definitely good news. On the appointed day, Kent and I went to the fancy restaurant Mike had booked.
Sarah, this is Lauren, my fiancée. I'm planning to marry her.
Then the woman next to Mike smiled at us. She was so cute and well groomed that even I, as a woman, was momentarily taken aback.
Nice to meet you. I'm Lauren Davis.
When I looked at Kent next to me, he seemed to be captivated by Lauren as well. I heard that Mike and Lauren had met at a marriage matchmaking party.
Is Sarah still working after marriage?
Before I could answer, Kent replied,
That's right. When we got married, my dad offered her a job at his company, but she's so stubborn. She still works at a cosmetics company. Ha.
Wow, Kent, your family runs a company. That's amazing.
Well, yeah. I'm the next president, you know.
I quickly interrupted their conversation. Lauren, what do you do for work?
I used to work as a receptionist at a department store, but I plan to quit and become a full-time housewife after getting married.
Certainly, with Mike's income, there would be no need for both to work. I hoped Lauren would support my busy brother. That day, I said to Lauren, please take care of my brother, and we wrapped up the meeting. On the way home, Kent cheerfully said,
Wow, Lauren was cute, right? That's what you call a beauty.
yes, she and Mike seemed very well matched. For some reason, Kent then looked sullen and didn't talk much afterward. I found it strange, but didn't think much of it at the time. Mike and Lauren got married and started living about an hour's drive from us. Some time passed. When I continued to feel unwell and went to the hospital, I found out I was pregnant. I happily reported it to Kent, but he only responded with, "Oh, really?" Feeling let down by his reaction, I said, "We're having a baby. I thought you'd be happier."
Yeah, well, I guess it's good news.
Then he immediately looked back at his phone. Despite feeling dissatisfied with his attitude, I reported my pregnancy to Mike, who was overjoyed.
Sarah, that's wonderful. Take good care of yourself.
I was happier that Mike was more excited than Kent. Soon after, my morning sickness began. However, instead of showing concern, Kent started being away from home more often. Kent, you've been coming home late lately. You even come back drunk sometimes. What have you been doing?
It's work. As the future president, I have to attend business meetings and social events. I'm busy.
Kent always said things like that. If a normal husband knew his wife was suffering from morning sickness, he would take care of her and bring her food she could eat. But Kent never did that. Moreover, one day when he came home early, this happened.
Hey, I'm home. What's for dinner?
That day, my morning sickness was particularly bad, and I had been bedridden since morning. I'm sorry. The morning sickness was too much today, and I couldn't cook. Could you buy something or eat the frozen food in the freezer? Kent flew into a rage.
You want me to eat frozen food after a hard day's work? What kind of wife are you?
I told you my morning sickness is bad.
I don't care. Get up and make dinner now. I won't tolerate any slacking.
He pulled my arm and forced me to stand up. In the end, I had to cook Kent's dinner while holding back my nausea. After that, Kent continued to come home late and go out even on weekends. One day, when Kent came home drunk, I smelled women's perfume on him. A sweet scent I had smelled somewhere before. I decided to secretly investigate Kent. I knew it was not uncommon for husbands to cheat while their wives were pregnant. Hoping it was just a misunderstanding, I contacted a detective agency. When I was 5 months pregnant and found out we were having a boy, Kent said to me,
Hey, we're going to church.
"Oh, right. We need to get ready."
My dad said he's coming too, so you should invite Mike and Lauren too.
I was surprised because I thought it was just the two of us going to church. However, I reconsidered that it might be nice to go with a family.
After church, there's a family gathering.
Really?
The baby is a boy, and he's going to be the heir to our company. So we're going to announce the pregnancy and the gender to the family. Dad has already gathered everyone.
I reluctantly nodded. I felt heavy-hearted, but I convinced myself that it was my duty as a married woman.
You should invite Mike and Lauren too.
Even though it's your family's gathering, is it okay to invite Mike?
Sure, why not? It's just a meal.
So I told Mike that I wanted him to come to church with us and then join Kent's family's gathering afterward. Mike asked, "Is it okay if Lauren comes too?" And I nodded. Of course, Lauren is our family now. I'd be happy if she came. We made arrangements for the day we would go to church. The day before the service, I received an envelope. When I looked inside, I gasped. No way, this can't be happening. The day of the service arrived. From the morning, Kent, Ken, Mike, Lauren, and I all headed to the church. Because of the secret I was carrying, I felt uneasy, but I went through the service. After the service, Ken said,
Let's head to our place. Mike, you and Lauren are welcome to join us.
Thank you for inviting us.
So we took a taxi to Kent's family home. After a while, the relatives started to arrive, congratulating me on the pregnancy. Many of Kent's relatives worked at Ken's company and were mostly sensible and kind. I was busy serving them beer and setting up the catered food on the table.
Is it okay for you to move around so much with your big belly? Should I help you?
Mike asked me with his concern, but I smiled and said, "I'm fine." Soon, with Ken's toast, the family meal began. Kent was happily drinking the beer poured by his relatives. Mike and Lauren were in a corner talking and eating. I was about to go around saying hello to Kent's relatives, but at that moment my stomach became very bloated. Ouch, ouch. Whether it was the stress or the recent busy activity, my belly hurt. In such times, resting usually helped, so I sat down, rubbing my belly and trying to relax. Then Kent said to me,
Hey, what are you resting for? The glasses are empty.
and then, in the next moment, a cold liquid was suddenly poured on my face. Immediately, the smell of beer hit my nose. Ken had poured beer on me.
Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you can slack off. Keep an eye on things and move around.
In that moment, I heard something snap in my head. So that's how it's going to be. Well, I'm not staying quiet anymore. Before I knew it, everyone in the family was watching us. Smiling sweetly, I said, "Okay, I'll tell Lauren too. She's your wife too, right? Ha ha."
What?
Following Mike's voice, Kent also said, "What?" The relatives around us seemed confused, not understanding what was going on. I walked briskly to where Mike and Lauren were sitting. I stood in front of Lauren. "Lauren, he says wives shouldn't rest and should keep an eye on things. Let's work together." Lauren looked at me with a blank expression. Mike had the same look.
Hey, Sarah. What are you talking about? Lauren is Kent's wife. This doesn't make any sense.
Mike seemed genuinely bewildered. At that moment, Kent hurried over.
Mike and Lauren, I'm sorry. It seems she's confused. They say pregnancy can make you emotional, but maybe it's making her crazy.
Kent grabbed my arm, but I shook him off. Maybe you're the one who's lost it. This woman is your wife, right? She should be helping out. Come on, Lauren, get up. I glared at Lauren as I spoke, and she said,
Wait, Mike, your sister is acting strange. She's saying things that don't make any sense. It's insulting.
Lauren moved closer to Mike, but Mike looked at my face and muttered,
Sarah, you're serious, aren't you? Tell me what's going on.
Recently, Ken has been coming home late. One day, I smelled women's perfume on him. It was the same scent you're wearing, Lauren. It made perfect sense why this scent seemed familiar. It was the same perfume Lauren wore on the day we first met. Then Lauren burst out laughing.
How ridiculous, haha. You suspected Kent and me over just that. This perfume is sold everywhere.
Kent joined in.
That's right, Sarah. It's disrespectful to Lauren, and all the relatives are watching. Just stop it already.
He grabbed my arm and tried to take me back to my seat. You know, I have proof.
What?
I went to get my bag and took out a brown envelope. I spilled its contents in front of Mike and Lauren. It was a bunch of photos. Photos of Kent and Lauren having meals together, getting close, and leaving a motel arm in arm.
What is this?
I watched Lauren's face turn pale as I spoke. Did you think I was accusing you based only on the smell of perfume? I hired a proper detective agency to investigate Kent. I didn't expect you to be the other woman, Lauren. Lauren's mouth opened and closed without a sound, so I continued. The investigation report also included your conversations. Kent, you said, Lauren is my wife, and Lauren, you were happy about it. So Lauren, you are his wife, right? Am I saying something wrong? Kent was crawling around, trying to gather the scattered photos. But Mike was staring at the photo he picked up, the one of Kent and Lauren leaving the motel. I received these results yesterday. At first, I wanted to stay quiet to avoid hurting you, Mike, and I hoped to break them up quietly. But when Kent poured beer on me and said those awful things, I couldn't forgive him. I'm sorry, Mike. I finally broke down and started crying on the spot. Of course, I couldn't forgive Kent and Lauren, but what hurt the most was deeply wounding my brother, who knew nothing about it. Then Mike stood up and put his hand on my head.
Sarah, that must have been tough. Thank you for telling me.
His voice was gentle, and I started crying even more. Mike then looked directly at Lauren and Kent.
So, what's going on? Lauren, were you seeing him while I was away for work?
Lauren looked panicked.
No, Mike, it's a misunderstanding.
What misunderstanding? These photos look real enough. Explain it properly.
Well, just before Sarah got pregnant, I ran into Kent outside. He asked for my contact information, and we ended up going out for drinks.
And then you cheated.
Kent and Lauren were pale and silent. Kent, what the hell were you thinking? Having an affair with your wife's sister-in-law? When I accused Kent, he turned his face away awkwardly.
Well, Lauren is prettier and cuter than you. She doesn't nag me about housework all the time like you do.
What?
It's only natural for me to be attracted to her. You're not even that pretty. Besides, I don't have any love left for you.
I felt my face flush with anger. How can you say such things to your pregnant wife? Do you have any sense of responsibility as a father and husband? You're being completely irresponsible. A moment of silence followed, but Kent and Lauren glared at me. Then Kent let out a big sigh.
All right, enough. This is such a hassle. So, what do you want by exposing all this in front of the family?
What?
Divorce? Fine by me. I don't care about the baby either, so let's get divorced.
You're just going to shrug it off. When I said that, Kent laughed scornfully and looked at Mike.
So, Mike, I'll be taking Lauren then.
Son of a bitch.
Kent pulled Lauren close in front of me and Mike.
Hey, Lauren, how about it? You really become my wife.
At first, Lauren looked surprised, but then she smirked.
Yeah, I don't mind divorcing either, haha.
Lauren, are you serious?
Yes, I am. Well, even though you work for a big company, you're still just an employee. Kent, who will be a president someday, might be more suitable for me.
While Mike and I stood in shock, Ken, who had been watching everything, spoke up.
That sounds good. I also think you're better suited for Kent than this plain girl with no parents.
I looked at Ken in shock. He was glaring at me with a hateful expression.
You didn't take the job that I offered, and you're a poor excuse for a wife. Besides, as Kent said, Lauren is prettier. Kent and Lauren make a great couple. They should get married soon.
Then Lauren said, "Thank you very much," in a sing-song voice. I felt dizzy. Like father, like son. Kent grinned at Ken's words.
With Dad's approval, that settles it. We're getting divorced. Mike and Lauren too. Then Lauren and I will get married and have our happy ending.
I was speechless, and Kent turned to Mike.
Sorry for stealing your wife. I may not have your education, but it seems I'm the better man, haha.
Kent wrapped his arm around Lauren's shoulders, and she leaned into him with a smug smile. To me, they looked like demons. When I looked at Mike, he was trembling, his head down, face hidden. Mike. He slowly raised his head and looked at Lauren.
Lauren, I understand your decision. Knowing you cheated, we can't stay together. We're getting divorced.
I already said that. I don't care about you anymore.
Ken, you've insulted my precious sister Sarah quite a bit. I can't let that go. If you think everything will go smoothly now, you're mistaken.
Ken's eyes widened at Mike's words, but then he smirked.
What can a youngster like you do? As her brother, just take your loser sister and get out.
Mike looked directly at Ken one last time.
You had an affair with my wife and betrayed my sister and her unborn child. You will pay for this.
What can you do, ha ha ha? It's humiliating to have your wife taken, so stop boasting. It's pathetic.
Then Kent, Ken, and Lauren started laughing at us.
Come on, you losers, get out. We're about to celebrate welcoming my new wife.
Mike spoke to me briefly.
Sarah, let's go. We don't need to stay with these people.
That's right. Mike and I had left Kent's family house, leaving behind a buzzing Kent's relatives. As we walked side by side, Mike spoke to me.
Sarah, is your belly okay? Are you feeling all right?
I said, "Yeah, I'm good." But then I started crying again. I'm so frustrated. I'm so angry. He smiled warmly at me.
This isn't over. We'll make them pay and drag them down to hell.
I knew it. Despite his smile, Mike was seething with rage inside. We went into a diner at his suggestion. Order anything you like, Mike said as I was choosing from the menu. He then left the table. It seemed like he was on a phone call with someone. When he returned, he smiled at me.
Now, the real show begins.
I didn't understand what he meant, so I just started eating the food that had been brought to us. A few minutes later, my phone started ringing loudly. The caller was Kent. Mike told me to ignore it, so I did, but it kept ringing over and over. Eventually, Mike took my phone and answered it. After ending the call, he said to me,
Sarah, we're going back to his house.
"Really? But, Mike."
It's fine. Just come with me.
We returned to Ken's house together. What greeted us was utter chaos. Shouts were flying around, and I could hear someone screaming in panic. When Mike and I arrived, everyone turned their attention to us. Ken shouted,
Hey, our biggest client just said they're stopping all business with us. They mentioned your name. What's going on here?
I looked at Mike, and he was smiling.
The big client? You mean Smith Industries?
Yes. Did you have a connection there?
Mike nodded.
A friend from my university works at Smith Industries. When we talked recently, he mentioned he was in the procurement department and that they were doing business with Ken's company.
Ken looked at Mike in shock.
But my friend said he wanted to stop doing business with Ken's company because the work was shoddy. I convinced him to continue because it was my sister's in-laws.
No way you.
Yes. I explained everything that led to the divorce and told him not to hold back. So, he must have immediately called to terminate the contract.
One of the relatives who worked at Ken's company muttered,
If we lose the deal with Smith Industries, we won't survive. What do we do?
The relatives working at Ken's company started to panic. Ken turned pale and held his head in his hands.
Everyone, I have connections with a friend who is starting a materials company nearby. If you cut ties with Ken and Kent, I can get you jobs there.
As Mike said this, the relatives exchanged glances and began gathering around him and saying things like, "We'll cut ties with them. They're terrible people."
Hey, you're all going to abandon us and go to another company?
One of the relatives replied to Ken,
We've had enough of your tyrannical management. Without the Smith Industries deal, we're sinking. We owe you nothing. Besides, during that whole commotion, you two insulted these people completely. The real scum here are you and your son. Who would follow such a person as the next president?
Ken was now trembling, unable to say anything.
Hey, Dad. What's going to happen to the company if we lose the Smith Industries deal and all the employees leave?
Kent shook Ken's shoulder, panicking. I smiled and said, "The company will probably go under, right? Even if it survives, it won't be like before."
Damn it. If your brother hadn't interfered,
Kent, with a furious expression, reached out towards me. I instinctively protected my belly and tried to dodge, just as Kent was about to throw a punch. Mike grabbed him by the collar and threw him down with a perfect judo throw. With a loud thud, Kent lay on his back, staring at the ceiling.
It's self-defense, so don't take it personally.
Mike said, dusting off his hands. He had practiced judo for many years. I wanted to applaud the clean throw, and at the same time, I felt a sense of relief. Ouch! Kent could only groan, unable to speak, while Lauren screamed hysterically.
What? The company is going under. You said you were going to be the next president. This isn't what I signed up for.
Kent still couldn't respond, only gasping like a fish. Lauren then clung to Mike's arm.
Mike, I was wrong. It's you I really love. It was just a moment of weakness earlier. I'm coming back to you. We won't get divorced, right?
Mike shook off Lauren's arm.
Don't touch me. You're disgusting. Expect a call from my lawyer about the alimony.
No. This isn't how it was supposed to be.
Lauren screamed, collapsing to the floor and crying into her hands.
Come on, Sarah. Let's go home.
Mike said, looking at me, and I nodded. As we were about to leave, I felt someone grab my ankle. Looking down, I saw that Kent still couldn't get up.
Sarah, I'm sorry. Please, let's start over. What will I do if I lose the family business? You work at a big company. You can take care of me.
No way.
I'll take good care of the baby too. So let's be a family again. Please, Sarah, forgive me.
At that moment, I shouted at the top of my lungs. Don't be ridiculous. We're getting divorced. I'll be claiming alimony and child support, so you better pay up. I never want to see you again, you worthless man. Kent screamed and tried to chase after me, but the relatives held him back. And this time, Mike and I left there. Afterward, both Mike and Lauren and Kent and I finalized our divorces. Mike claimed alimony from Lauren, who, having no savings, had her parents pay for it. Lauren's parents, who were strict, took her back to their rural home, where she worked under their watch to repay the money. Of course, I also claimed alimony from Lauren. As for Ken's company, after losing the contract with Smith Industries and the mass resignation of employees, it went bankrupt. It turned out Ken's company wasn't doing well financially, and there was little left. Ken was cut off by his relatives, lost his company, and now lives as a recluse. As for Kent, I claimed alimony and child support from him as well. Kent paid alimony with his meager savings and agreed to pay $700 a month in child support. Paying me left him broke, and then Mike claimed alimony from him too. Unable to pay it all, Kent went into debt. He has since found a new job, but between child support and debt repayment, he has little left and now lives at his family's home to care for Ken. I no longer have any feelings for Ken. As for me, I moved to live near Mike and gave birth a few months later. Mike was as happy about the baby's arrival as if it were his own, and I asked him to be the godfather. I am now working hard and raising my child. Mike dotes on my child and helps us a lot. From now on, I want to cherish my loving family and live positively.